Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition episode of Pirate Radio. It's pre-recorded with a friend of mine, Trevor Zantos, who is a gun industry insider and, dare I say, expert. He's been in the business of firearms and outdoor gear, survival, whatever you want to call it, since the age of 15. He started with knives, um, worked for some big-time companies who make flashlights and lasers, Surefire to be exact. He's been in business from the gun side, the knife side, the laser side, the suppressor side, from R&D up through manufacture and sales and all that. So uh, has a lot of great knowledge. We get into a lot of great topics throughout this. He and I are approximately the same age, around 42 years of age, and he has a lot of wisdom and insight within the industry. So without further ado, enjoy this special episode of Pirate Radio with myself and Mr. Trevor Zantos. All right, so we are here with Trevor, who has been spent his entire adult life in the gun industry. Started with knives, as I just found out about 30 seconds ago, maybe longer. We've been mutuals on the Twitters for a couple of years, three, I don't know. It's been years.
Yeah.
You seem to pop in randomly here and there. You're not like, it doesn't appear that you're as obsessed with it as I am and some others, but you come in, you do have some expertise that I've noticed over the years, which I appreciate. And there's been some interesting discussions that ever since we set this up, I've recalled some of our interactions throughout the years, and they've been good interactions.
Well,
So I guess we'll if you want to give just a little bit of background on yourself, Trevor, of like the industry and kind of your knowledge base, I'll let you do that real quick.
sure. So, um, as said, name's Trevor. I basically have grown up in this industry. I was telling him, technically, I started in the gun industry when I was 19, uh, all the way back in 2003. I started with Surefire. But if we really wanted to actually count how long I've been in the industry, I would have gone farther back to when I was 15 and started working in a knife shop, which is actually how I got introduced, because I grew up in Southern California, which is obviously where Surefire is based. And that is how I was a 16-year-old kid that was rolling around with $500 custom knives in his pocket and Surefire flashlights and everything else, and getting to know knife makers and all these other things pre 2001 and 9/11 and all this other stuff that as most people will know, and for those that don't, that are newer to the shooting industry, GWAT and post 2001 really changed the shooting industry a lot. And so, having been a part of a peripheral with knives and the tactical knives, which it was far more controversial to say something was tactical back then.
Very.
It's very interesting and fun to talk with some of my other friends that were around during that same time and involved in stuff, and just the changes that have gone on is fun. So yeah, so I started working at Surefire. So we sold Surefire flashlights. Like I said, I worked at a knife store that sold Surefire flashlights, which is a rare thing because they actually had a real store, and we had a whole big display and everything. We were one of their better dealers, and so I was able to get myself an interview and go down there because this is all local to me in Southern California, and then uh, started off, got a job working customer service, and basically had an advantage over everybody else because, unlike them, I knew the Surefire product line backwards and forwards already, because I'd already been working it, living it for years. So
Right.
that was the start of it, and then kicked off a crazy journey going through a whole bunch of different manufacturers, and uh, I mean that's sort of a I can I can sort of try to summarize my various areas of expertise or stuff, or if we want to get to that a little bit later. But that's sort of my intro
I
to
think that
the
will
industry.
probably come out as we go on.
Yeah.
So basically, it's going to be starting with pointy weapons, and then going from there, and to kind of piggyback off the post 9/11, like the GWAT stuff. I put out a post here a few days ago. I'm a Mini 14 guy, or at least I've been labeled that. And what so many people, post 9/11 guys, or people who were maybe, you know, under 10 years old when 9/11 happened, they don't understand the assault weapons ban. It's something that maybe they've read about, maybe they've heard about, but they hear about like a modern one. But my post was, look, I've had that Mini 14 since 2001, 2002, somewhere in there.
Yep.
And back then it was $500. And an
Yep.
AR, Colts were everywhere, Bushmasters were everywhere. They were
Yep.
pretty ubiquitous. This was even like pre Rock River, who kind of, if I remember
Olympia.
right, yeah, there was
Olympic
a whole
arms.
bunch of Olympic arms. But basically, if you went to a gun show, which used to be like a thing to do back then,
Oh, oh man.
right?
We
If you went
we
to
should
a
be
gun
careful.
show
We should
back
we
then,
can't we shouldn't reminisce too much, because I mean we can be here for a long time. We start
sure,
talking
sure.
about what we
Yeah,
used
I'm just
to
gonna.
be able to do at gun shows.
Yeah, I'll hit it quick. Gun shows used to be like a cool thing. You used to be able to find deals. But like if you went, that's basically where you would see, for me at least, that's what existed in the world. You would go there and you would see all different things.
The
And when you went to a gun show, you would see the Colt H bars and whatnot, and the Colt ARs. You're talking $1,200, give or take,
mm-hmm.
depending on what it was. In a match grade barrel, you're talking closer to the 2000 mark. And this is this is 2002, 2000 to 2002,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. And the assault weapons ban meant that there would be like no flash hider, or it would
Mm-hmm.
be a 5 or 10 round magazine, pistol grip. Like you had to, I can't remember the exacts, but basically you couldn't have a 30 round mag, a pistol grip, and a flash hider on the same rifle from the factory. That was a no go. So you had to mix and match what you wanted or not
Yeah,
wanted or
a
what
lot.
have you. But the
Most of the
Mini
time,
14
they
fell outside of
had
that.
a lot of the ones, if I'm remembering correctly, they just basically did the straight barrels. That's
Yes,
why like the heavy barrels and stuff like that were very popular, because they could
yep,
do that and have the pistol grip, and then have the regular 30 round mags. That was
correct.
that was one of the popular setups that I remember.
Right, but that's
Although
how
the
I
Mini
ended up.
14 was more popular in like California, because we already had the bands, and so ARs were harder. Um,
Sure.
with they were problematic, but yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I ended up with a Mini 14. Was it basically was between, do I buy the Mini 14, which is a 223.556 capable
Yep.
platform, with there is aftermarket support, although not great, with magazines, and then it is a non-scary gun, quote unquote. And this is pre like ubiquitous red dots too.
Yeah.
So like a red dot was not really a thing in my mind in 2002. Like aim point was around, what have you, but like it was iron sights or it was scopes. Like
It,
that was
it,
the whole
it was
thing. And
niche.
that,
Like
yeah,
like you said, if you weren't in the world, like if you weren't like specifically like
it was
in,
Hollywood stuff.
if you weren't really in like uh military, law enforcement, or high end competition shooting, red dots were things that you saw in gun magazines
Yep.
and movies.
Yeah. It was more, you had a better chance of seeing a laser on a rifle than you did of seeing a red dot back then.
There were far more part of how I that's a lot of how Surefire got started is laser devices. Surefire, before Surefire was Surefire, it was laser devices, and that's
I
how it
didn't
got
know that.
started. But yeah,
Makes sense.
so how Surefire got started was putting lasers on weapons for LAPD, SWAT, uh, help them prepare for the 1984 uh, Olympics, and it was being able to make the lasers small enough and controlling the power range. Is all visible lasers, but making them strong enough but not too strong, and shrinking them and the power source to fit onto their MP5s and ARs. And that's how laser devices, which is the real name for Surefire, got started. Was not
Uh,
making flashlights; it was making lasers.
so, so side tangent for me. I don't know if you'll know the answer to this question. In the Terminator movie, is that a Surefire laser on the 45 that Arnold, as the Terminator, goes and gets in the gun shop?
I have no idea. I'd have to go look.
Damn. Yep, I gotta write that down. All right.
Yeah,
So
we'll have
before,
to do that
um,
post interview.
yeah,
We'll take a look.
um,
We
I can
did do a
write
lot
what.
of work with the movie industry and stuff. That is something that they
Sure.
were the the brand was very good at, was getting their stuff in movies uh, and
It makes
on
sense to
screen.
do that, especially being in California. It's kind of
Well, I mean, you develop a relationship with armors and everybody that's doing it, and once you like, if you do it well, and the people that were at that beginning part of that relationship phase did a really good job, and so yeah.
let's. So what spawned this whole thing was a me shit posting, basically. Um,
And me taking the bait.
so well, you're not alone. But you know what? Sometimes shit posting has a good. There
It's a
was a
pet
kind
peeve.
of
It hit a
sure.
nerve on me, so that's why
It hit a
it does.
lot of
That's why I
nerves on a
did it.
lot of people. It hit the other side of the nerve as well of the
Oh yeah.
people. So I'll put up the post that I did. This has been roughly a week ago, or 2 weeks ago. Jesus. Okay, so I posted, for those who are listening, not watching. I posted on Twitter. Still Twitter. It is not two crosses coming together.
Correct.
There is literally, so the post reads, there is literally no reason a suppressor should be over $800. Most cans should be $250 max. And it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It got the views, it got the clicks, but it also got
Yeah.
like a conversation going.
101,000
Yeah, not
views.
bad. I was
Yeah.
hoping for 10,000 or whatever, but it takes some, these things take on a life of their own. They do what they do, but it started a conversation, which we're having now. Also, it wasn't an idea that this would happen, but this is like a happy byproduct of that. But my kind of thought on it. So there is a lot of truth to that in what I put. Now the $250 mark, okay, you know, so I guess full disclosure, I have a Resilient Suppressors Simple Man 762
Yeah.
can. This is the only can that I have. It is a basic, like kind of crudely welded, if I'm being honest, but I don't really care how it looks. I care more what it does, how it performs, and it's been great so far. 300 blackout, 556, whatever it is. It's not super heavy, it's not super light, but I knew what I was getting. It's not a flow through, it's not Inconel, it's not titanium, it's a stainless steel can, and it was without the hub mount, it was $475 before any sort of back
Okay.
end fees and what have you.
Yeah.
And to me, that seems fair. I don't mind that. Obviously, I don't mind paying that. I paid it. But my thought on the whole thing is like, if we're talking about if we're leaving the military law enforcement specialists out of it, a $300 to $500 can to me seems fair for everybody involved. Now, obviously, there's the caveat of I don't work in the industry. I've never worked in the industry. I understand, basic concepts of business. I mean, I do run a business that's not in the firearms industry, so I understand basic, materials, labor, blah blah blah. There is legality that goes in what I do, but although it's not as stringent as something like this, I would assume.
Yeah.
So really, it comes down to what are we talking about, or what are people, especially myself, what am I missing when it comes to
Okay.
the manufacture of a
Yeah.
NFA item, in essence, a suppressor more
What
specifically.
what's different? The point is from a pure. Let's distill it down like you were doing and say like what was my point of contention was and is that there is was misunderstood by the general public is that even if you have is one most have never been involved in any sort of actual manufacturing business
Sure.
and specifically manufacturing of precision products, and that is far more difficult and requires far more effort, time, and equipment costs. There are far more accumulated costs around that surround the actual construction than people realize, because there's a lot of quality control that has to go in to that to make sure that you don't get baffle strikes, for instance, and the fact and to make sure that after it's welded that it's all rechecked and well it's checked, it's rechecked, it's checked again, so that way you don't get baffle separation when you actually use it. And even just on the civilian side, like we're separating like a lot of my experience involves like heavy use military uh, and law enforcement and that type of equipment, but we're separating, like you said, we're separating those types of specialty items out. But just in general, there's uh, I think just most people today don't understand what it takes to make things, because
I'd
we
agree
are,
with that.
as a society, we are so separated from most people have just never made anything in their lives or seen what it actually takes to make things. And so they just say, well, it should cost this. And it's like, well, how the hell do you have any idea what it should take to make this when you've never made anything in your life? You've never had to order material. You've never had to see the fluctuations of the steel market or pay for dead inventory that sits on your books and you get taxed on it, or the fact that like realizing that there's an excise tax on every single suppressor that you pay. There's an extra 12, it's either 11 or 12% excise tax automatically on there that is going to the government. That every single one of those has an excise tax. That straight
I'm
off the top.
curious. Sure. Do you know how they figure the excise tax on a suppressor? Can you talk
It
about it?
goes off
If
of
I ask a
the.
question you can't talk about it, just say, "Hey, I
So
can't talk about it."
I
By the way,
believe. I'm trying to.
roughly. I mean, if you know roughly, like I used to be in the
Well,
alcohol
it's
business, and so
either.
like, go ahead.
So it's either.
As you look that up, I used to be in the alcohol business, and how like different states are a little bit different, but generally how they
So
tax alcohol.
this is all done federally. So it's based on generally is based on how it goes into the market is the general term of phrase. So however you sell it into the market, and
So
so
like a
that means
wholesale
like if you
cost.
sell it, well, so it depends basically, which is part of where this is where like you have extra costs involved because you have to keep track of this all as a
Sure.
business. So like say I sell direct to consumer as well as selling wholesale. Well, I if I sell wholesale into the market, right, then my excise tax is based on my wholesale costs I sold it into the market as. But um, then if I sell it at a retail price, then it's a different one.
Right.
And then
That's how booze at a bar works. So you're going to pay a tax on it. Someone paid a tax before they sold it to your bar, and then you're going to pay the tax based on what you're selling per pour. So if you sell Crown for
let's see
$5, you're going to pay 40% on $5. Um, that's how it works in that business. But
importer
let's just say it's super
yeah.
convoluted, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's so it at but the point is that there's an extra 11% vig that is
sure,
added on top of everything that you buy that goes straight to the government that is not profit, it doesn't go to anything. So it's just another thing, and it also is just another part of like the the and then also let's add that into another part of the non-standard, the non-man, like people that understand manufacturing, the other added part of costs to working in the firearms business is the fact that you have all the extra ATF requirements for tracking serial number items and so firearms and stuff like that, the selling of them, the tax you need to pay, where they go, disposal, paperwork. So you have all that extra labor burden built into it. So when people are calculating, like when someone says, "Oh, well, I know what machine shops cost to run, and I can know that I can build that part and do blah blah blah." Well, you're not accounting for the extra federal government stuff that you got to do and the extra just paperwork and
sure,
stuff that
somebody's got to
comes with
keep up with all of this crap too.
it.
That's the other thing. You got to pay
Exactly.
somebody. Your guy running a CNC,
You
let's say, cannot be is not going to keep
no
up with all the paperwork. So there's
no.
another at least
So
one person.
uh, I mean, depending on how, I mean, and here's the thing: in order to get to your price point, you got to scale.
Sure.
Really. So that means that you probably have to have multiple people doing NFA paper, keeping track of your book stuff, and paying attention on ATF. So that's multiple salaries that are going to that side. So
Sure. It
there's
benefits, salaries, all of that.
again there's just these
Payroll
hidden
tax.
costs there that go into it because I've seen just people before throw out the look, they'll bill it like they were billing it just as like a CNC work job, and I'm like,
Sure.
that ain't how they didn't that's not how it works, because the other thing is you got to add in liability insurance, which for actual firearms manufacturers, that ain't cheap. Then you got the fact that you got if you're going to be a real company, you got to add in warranty costs
Sure.
and that part of it. And so there's all these other non-standard cost considerations that go into building specifically firearms. And so that's where like I get touched off because well, one, I get touched off on a couple of things that you'll see. I'm sure you've seen me go off multiple times on people. One,
Sure.
I I love American manufacturing. I've worked in American manufacturing my entire adult life, and I will fight to support it. And I put my money where my mouth is. I do not buy anything from China that I can help. Specifically, I don't buy any
Right.
firearms shit from China. Period. I do not. I do not
Right.
own anything, and because it directly, uh, it directly hurts American manufacturing. Period.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best things about the firearms industry is that if you want to buy American, that's almost your only choice by and large. It is one of the rebuttals that came up was, it might have been me that did it. Obviously, the tolerances don't have to be as great, but a company like Palmetto State Armory, who makes lowers for sub $100, AR-15 stripped lowers,
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's not as important a part as a suppressor. Obviously, but there's machine costs, there's material costs, there's still the regulation costs, the all of that stuff. It can, it doesn't have to be.
Well,
They can sell a blemished lower.
Palmetto is a
So
great. So Palmetto is a great example of a company that can get you into your like mid price range. Like I think your
mhm,
lower one is where like I think you were hitting too low. Like I think that as we evolve, because here's the thing, like the okay, so I also had the unique privilege of being involved with suppressors really early, because I was at Surefire when the first Surefire SOCOM contract uh, was being started, or like they were preparing the submission package. So I had to
right,
shoot and actually like experience and go down all this. And then later, I actually worked for Tim LaFrance, which helped lead in the design process for all this stuff. So I've been involved with suppressors for over 20 plus years and I've actually designed them. I've tested them, done R&D on them. I own, I don't know how many at this point,
that
dozens.
means it's a lot.
I own dozens,
Good.
and I mean I've got everything from ones that work on full auto belt fed machine guns, 50 BMG ones, and I mean I've paid, and these are not ones I've been given. I I've spent a lot of money on suppressors of my money to test them and try them. So in addition to designing and doing all the rest of that stuff, so it's very much a passion of mine. I love suppressors. Like I do not for rifles. I do not own, none of my setups are unsuppressed. Everything is suppressed. Everything has its own suppressor. Like that's There's
That
something
just
that I'm
it's baked into the
very
cake for you.
passionate about, and like I said, if you look up, I'll put some links after this of Tim LaFrance to give you an idea. Like, he's one of the OGs of literally inventing suppressors. He's been in the firearms industry since the 1960s,
Oh wow.
and so like he's part of how I learned about all this stuff. And so yeah, this is something that like it's one of my areas of focus, I would say, and also not just areas of focus and stuff that I've done. Like, honestly, it's one of the bigger just passions, like that I have and interests. I mean, I've got several books on vintage stuff and original stuff going all the way back to World War II, and I've got like the patent books of all original suppressors that have ever been filed. And so yeah, so but really, like, Palmetto State Armory is a great example of, sorry, trying, I go through a lot of tangents, so I apologize to everyone, but um
You're
going
used
back
to it.
to,
I do it too.
okay, well, perfect. Hey, just about all of us that get into this industry and stay in it, we got the ADHD and probably a little bit of the tism,
Touch of the
especially,
tism there. Yeah.
well, especially if you end up being a designer and actually like doing stuff, then yeah, there's a tism. And that's the other thing, is that I actually design and have had my designs manufactured on a lot of different things. So that's the other reason why I'm very much an American manufacturing protectionist, and why I get involved when people talk about like, uh, well, things should cost X. It's like, man, it is so hard to get stuff made. Like, first of all, I should ask, do we try to keep this podcast clean as far as
No, just
language?
try to keep the racial slurs to a minimum, but outside of that,
Okay,
we're.
I just try to be courteous, and I want to
I
ask
appreciate it.
before that. So, I mean, like, a lot of my designs, I mean, a short design window is a year. Most of
On a
my
suppressor,
designs, well, no, just I'm
or just
talking
anything in
products.
general. Okay, gotcha.
Like, it could be, I mean, even like
Doesn't
soft
matter what it
goods.
is, but it's going to
It doesn't
be
matter what it
your
is,
minimum
just
year.
iterations and prototyping and
Testing, yeah.
figuring and
Okay,
testing and figuring that out, and then working it into a manufacturing line, and
sure.
like raw product selection and all that stuff. Like, 6 months, if I can go from a design to actually like getting to manufacturing in 6 months, that is that's fucking amazing. Like,
Right.
there's very few things I've ever done like that I've done that quickly. Like, I've only done a couple like small projects for like tactical soft goods on that. But most of my shit, like, a year is really what I consider a short-term project. Most of my stuff is 2 years, is a 2 year cycle, is basically what I count on, is 18 months to 2 years for anything, is what is what I count on. And that's another thing that you got to roll into the cost of these things. And I mean, now a lot of these suppressors, if you're getting into this, let's just call it mid-range suppressors.
Mid range,
The,
entry level, basically.
yeah, this like I would call it. Let's say the like $400 to $700 type
Sure.
thing. Like, okay, they're not reinventing the wheel. They're using basically already established baffle designs and already established suppressor designs. They're
Hmm.
like, it's I don't care what their marketing says. Like,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
If we cut them open, we will see that it is the same and it has not changed. Now, part of that is the fact that in reality, the suppressor industry has been virtually locked for almost 100 years,
Right.
because it has basically since 1934, when the NFA was established, and until we got free tax stamps, there's been an unnatural government constriction on innovation, right? Because you
Right.
have this negative tax burden associated. I mean, you have a burden that is basically 20% or more of the cost of the item that you have to pay, plus pre e-forms, you have to wait a year. So you have all of this negative, and then until Surefire won that SOCOM contract, like that was the first time that the military placed a large order, like an actual proper, like several hundred piece order for suppressors, like since Vietnam, probably. And even then, it was all like it was like their suppressor orders in Vietnam were all disjointed and a mess. So really, it was the first proper suppressor order, and
Right.
that kicked off a whole new era. But really, the opening up of the funny enough, the fact that $200 started meaning a lot less relative to what people were making post 2000, and the fact that people saw the suppressors and they're like, well, that looks fucking cool, I want one of them. Like, if the cool guys have them, then why the fuck do I not have one of those on my ARs, right? With the sunset of the assault weapons ban and the GWAT influence and all that other stuff, that's what allowed all these other companies to start going. But I just saw the number that ATF published, where we went from, I think it was 2005, if I'm not correct, 2005, there was 600,000 registered suppressors on the NFA. As of June 2026, we were just shy of 7 million.
Okay, so that's a big increase,
In
to say the
in
least.
20 years, we have literally changed. Like, I can't tell you, like, this is all time that I've been involved, and the
Right.
orders of magnitude of how common they are, how the fact that normal people are being exposed to them, they're buying them, they're interested in them, and that is actually like one of the great things that is actually helping to get more companies, more capital involved, and actually helping get suppressors to the price point that you're looking at, where it's actually realistic for companies to spin up, have demand, and be able to offer a decent suppressor that is actually quality. Because that's the other thing, is that I don't want to, because suppressors can be low quality suppressors can be
Sure.
dangerous, and I hate that from a safety side. So that's part of why I exclude cheap suppressors. I don't I don't think they're worth it from a safety aspect. In the same way that I don't shoot certain ammo in my guns, because
Sure.
that 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 my guns are worth more, and my life is worth more. So that sort of
Sure. Absolutely.
so, but now that we got that $0 tax stamp, now it makes it worth it for, and manufacturers have been ramping up. I mean, first of all, the demand is just like, if you looked at because ATF actually releases numbers every single year of where all the
Okay.
SBR, like what the NFA is actually tracking, and the increase of registered SBRs, like everything, every single year. And the trends have been going, like for suppressors, especially, I would say like the past, I mean, it's really bumped in the past 5 years, but I would say 10 years has really been the where we've seen a marked change, where you could get a decent suppressor at uh, on sale or through a deal at the $750 range. I would say that was from a good company. So it's the other big thing for me is having gone to, I don't know if you've had a chance to go to a SHOT Show yet.
I haven't.
Okay. So for those that don't know, just because I don't want to assume everyone knows, but
Okay.
every year in January, there is a show called SHOT Show that is an industry only show for the gun, hunting, military show in Vegas. It is literally one of the largest trade shows that Vegas actually puts on. It takes over the entire Venetian, Caesar's Palace Forum. It it brings in about 200,000, almost 200,000 people. People will come from all over. It is not only the biggest trade, like our industry trade show for America, it's the biggest one in the world. Like people come in from all over the world for it. Like it's the biggest one for our industry worldwide. And so, but what you often see is you see new manufacturers, and it's like, well, a lot, a lot of jaded people. I might
Sure.
be one of those people. See
It
the new
happens.
guys, and it's like, well, tell you what, I'll swing back by your booth if I see you here, and maybe for a third year,
Right.
because it's this business is really hard. That's another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the margins on firearms and suppressors and everything else are thin. Like I'm talking, they are thinner than almost any other, like besides like the grocery business, they're thinner than any other business that I know of that sells into retail. I don't know of another uh, business model that has thinner margins for for things. So the gun business is not easy, and it is hard as a
That's
startup.
on that aspect of it. This is one of the things. If people aren't familiar with Ian over at Forgotten Weapons, they certainly should be. Follow Ian over at Forgotten Weapons on YouTube and all the places where he posts is the fact that the reason some weapons are forgotten are not because they're crappy. It's because you can't you couldn't scale it, you couldn't make it, it was too complex, it was the wrong timing, it was a different caliber, it was a this, it was a that. There's any number of things. Like if you could have gotten one more iteration out of this and just a little bit more capital, you're talking about a weapon
Well,
that could have changed the world or the military or a conflict or anything. But it's just
we
once
can't
you've
get
sunken
capital.
so much cost into right, and once you've sunken so much cost into something, anybody who's given you money to that point is like, hey, I'm going to need to see a return here. I'm not giving you another dollar until we see something happen, and then they go to market with an inferior product and it fails, and it basically collapses your already, it's the sunk cost fallacy almost, like, but just in a different direction. And so I can see, and that's not exclusive necessarily to the gun business. It's just a little more pronounced. And, when you're talking about smaller margins, the industry I'm in, let's just call it the construction industry, we're talking about, we're happy to make a 7% return on our investment, a 7% margin, which is fantastic. But most people, I think, think that, well, everybody's making 50% off their product or this or that.
Right.
And if they can, that's fantastic.
Hey,
But if you
awesome.
have to scale up all of this stuff, you got to scale up over time, whatever it is. I think probably the biggest frustration and not maybe frustration or like misconception is when you take a company like a Palmetto, it seemingly came out of almost, you know, it's like the stand-up comic that hits all of a sudden. You're like, man, Shane Gillis came out of nowhere, and it's like, yeah, he's been doing this for 10 years in clubs you've never heard of, and then they hit. Palmetto's the same way, where they seemingly come out of nowhere, but they have these, decent products, ever increasing quality products. They manufacture now, they bought an ammo manufacturer, which now they manufacture their own ammunition. They do lowers, they do parts, they do full rifles. They sell everybody else's or most other companies' products. And you're like, well, why can't someone else do that, but with suppressors or whatever the thing is? And I don't think that, there's two games you can play in business as just a basic, thing. You can be Ford or Toyota and sell a shitload of cars, or you can be McLaren and sell a small amount of exclusive cars with a huge margin attached to it. Both car companies, they all have warranties, they all have R&D, they all have regulation that they have to deal with, and it's pretty much the same, give or take a little bit. But it's a different, do you want to make a lot of money per unit and sell not a whole lot, or do you want to make a little money per unit and put one in every household? So that's kind of a basic structure of it. Now, when you're talking about suppressors, as you mentioned before, when $200 meant basically nothing, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and now it's completely gone, and you can go online and do this stuff. Like, I bought this suppressor from Capital Armory. I never
Right.
left the house, and it showed
Well,
up. It took
and that's
probably a little longer. It took
so
basically a
here's
month, month and a half, something like that.
but there's a problem with that. What they did though with the few companies that are doing that, they're also destroying all your local gun shops.
I'm
Because,
kind of okay with that with the area I'm in, if I'm being honest.
well, the thing
And I
is
know that
though,
sounds bad.
well, so hold on. If you want to buy, let's say you want to buy a gun on Gun Broker, where are you going to go to get
Right.
it transferred?
Now it's a pawn shop.
Like it
I
or
found a new one.
well, but guess what? This thing this new thing that these massive conglomerates, these big money people have figured out, where they can sell suppressors to your home, is actually really bad for our industry. Because yes, I trust me, it is great for the consumer, but it's actually going to hurt the consumer in the long term, because it is going to it is already hard enough to survive as a local gun store. You're now taking away another revenue source. Sure. And that means that you're going to cut the number of those, and you're not going to be able to transfer fire. You're going to have to travel a lot farther, because the only ones that are going to survive are the big ones. And guess what? Those private party transfers, those costs are going to go way up. $100 is going to start being cheap to get a gun transferred because they're going to have a captured market. And
Sure.
the uh, the local gun store has been just like small businesses have been the bedrock of the of American success. This this is killing that. And here's another thing. This is also behind the scenes, and this is where I'm gonna just talk a little behind the shop stuff. And again, I don't want, like, obviously people as consumers. It is. I want to repeat. I understand why everybody. If I was just a consumer on the consumer side, I would use this service the same way, and I would enjoy using it. And I think it is a fantastic thing. My problem is that they should allow every single, if you have the correct licenses from the government, just the regular license. If I have an FFL and an SOT, I should be able to do the exact same thing. They should not be giving special treatment to these other people that they're getting. That's my problem with it, is that part of it. And
I agree with that.
so because the because here's the other thing, is that if I'm so let's say I'm a small, like, for example, there's some small startup or newer, not complete startup, but newer suppressor manufacturers. Okay. And they want to expand a dealer network, and they really want to expand a dealer network, and they want to sell direct themselves, but they really want to support a dealer network because they're new, so they don't have the brand name. So that means they're going to benefit far more by getting them in people's hands to sell them, right? But they're going to have this external pressure from the few companies. I think there's 3 right now that are set up to be able to send suppressors to your house. And so if that monopoly basically will be able to come to them, and they'll be able to dictate pricing and say, you're going to have to take less money to be in the club, and that's going to undercut their dealer network that they have. And so building and scaling for those newer people, those small businesses, again, that are the engines of American success. And often we're in the suppressor industry and industry in general, because I've been involved in body armor, optics, night vision, lasers. Electronic warfare, drones, et cetera, et cetera. The innovation and the new stuff that eventually trickles its way, like, yes, initially it's all expensive and sometimes out of reach of the normal person, but all that innovation eventually trickles its way down to being more affordable. And just like we have the suppressors today that are $400 to $700 are way better than what a $1,200 suppressor was 5 years ago. Like that
Right.
and that's part of why you need these innovative small businesses, but if you cut off how they're able to operate and how they're able to get into the market, because the civilian market is far larger and far more lucrative than military and law enforcement. People, it's often confused and by everybody that you can make a lot of money selling to the government. No, you make money selling to civilians. Okay, in the gun
Right.
industry, the civilian market is way bigger, way more profitable. It's also way more consistent. So you sell to the government because it's good for branding, and it's also we love our troops. We want our military to have the best stuff. So we deal with the insane fucking process that it is dealing with the government to try to get them, just to try to get the guys on the ground good shit, because trust me, that process is, yeah.
It's the government. It's not going to be
You're
a easy process.
let's not go back to giving me flashbacks, okay? Um
Okay.
uh PTSD is gonna start rearing up.
I
But
guess, as you were talking
so
about the startup though, my thing is like I get where you're coming from. I totally get it. Like
I'm just
my
trying to
problem
create a
with it is like
conversation.
it's
That's all.
sure. I'm doing the same thing. My problem with it is there's nothing special about this Simple Man suppressor.
No.
And that is good and bad at the same time because, as you mentioned before, so many of these designs are just
Good.
somebody. It's a proven design repackaged with a different name
I
with
think
different marketing behind it more often than not. And then you get these suppressor wars between the suppressor manufacturers, and like a guy like Focus Trip has shown different companies going after each other, which to me is more like the suppressor companies, the suppressor industry eating its own drives me nuts. Like gun companies eating their
well
own drives me nuts, and it like no one
negative
wins. But it's like at some point you have
negative
to innovate the
marketing
thing. That's kind of my
is
frustration.
negative marketing is the stupidest thing that anybody can do, in my opinion. And the gun industry has a really bad habit, especially. Uh, so, first of all, the gun industry is incestuous for people that actually work in it. We have a bad habit of. The thing is, once you get in, a lot of us just like you're sort of just in it, and
Sure.
we don't do the best job. Somehow, we don't clean out people that we should. Like we're not the best at kicking out the bad apples. Unfortunately, I wish my industry was better at it. It's something that we don't do well. But I I don't I have never talked negatively. Whenever I've done sales for a lot of different for all my different manufacturers I've worked for, I have never done negative sales or marketing when I've talked to customers. I I will never work for a company with a product that I don't believe in. And my thing is that I will always talk about my thing. I will talk about how my product and what its positives things are and what it offers. And I don't need to talk about what the other companies are and what they're doing. I'll let that play out because
Sure.
one, we have the biggest market in the world for every single type of product that you want to sell, whether it's military, law
Right.
enforcement, civilian. We are the largest market in the world for it. Period. We dwarf. Like we literally, like just the civilian side, I think is worth more than the military spending of like almost all the other nations combined. Like
Well,
we
and
spend
to that point, there's a reason that SIG shut down their German division and now they just operate in America.
right, like so. There's room. My belief has always been there's room for everybody. There's, I don't have to like you to not to not go out of my way to be negative towards you. Like there's been plenty of companies that like and competitors that I haven't liked per se, but I've never seen the gain in like starting petty drama or doing shit. I think that's just unprofessional and it makes us look bad. And we
Yeah.
already have so much attention on our industry because of what we do and what it is and the political climate that there is we should hold ourselves to a higher standard. And it really frustrates me. It really disappoints me when I see companies go after each other like that. Like it's just so it's like, dude, just make your own shit, make it better, and compete on your own merits. Don't worry about the fact that you're wasting time worrying about what some other company is doing means that that's energy that you're not using to improve your own stuff. Like that makes me think less of you as a brand. I literally don't care. Like I will avoid your brand on purpose and make sure I will write you off no matter what you make, no matter how special it is, no matter how great it supposedly is. I will purposely make sure I never work with your product ever if you act like that.
I agree with that fully. I've been in sales for the last too long to count, and it's the same
Yeah.
thing. It doesn't matter if you're selling guns, suppressors,
No.
cars,
No, like I said,
whatever
this
it
is
is. If
base
you're talking
principle.
trash, yeah, it's a basic thing because even if you have some inside information, their whatever it is, whoever
We
you're
all have
telling it
inside
to looks at you.
information.
Right, but whoever you look at and tell it to, if they don't have the same info, which is why you would be telling them, is because they're uninformed, they're ignorant to it. But the way they look at you is, this guy, I'm not buying from this guy. This guy is like, why would he talk about you? Like when you talk down, you put yourself down, and people don't understand that. And that's the thing. Like in the gun industry, I'm not in the gun industry. I'm a consumer, and I see it, and I'm like, that really is just like, there's a whole lot of drama happening now with like Sons of Liberty Gunworks. I it is what it is. I don't know, but I have nothing to do with it. I don't own their products. I've never, it is what
I
it is what I'm going to say
it
on that. But what I
they
see
they
happening is their
they brought it
ownership,
on themselves.
I agree. Yes,
That's so
100%, because
the only
they
thing
go
I'll
on
say about it.
podcasts.
The only thing I'm going to say about it is that is a perfect example of you brought on your own drama between doing things you shouldn't, and
Yeah.
therefore there's repercussions for it. And this is why it's I mean that's just part of the gig
Well, and
in the world.
I'll go a little further, because I have no dog in this fight. I don't
And
care. Like,
I I don't either.
sure,
Like I don't
but you're in the
own the
industry,
products.
so it's
I've never represented it. Like there may be background information I may or may not know, but I don't want that because, like I said,
but I know
this
none
is
of it.
not stuff that I get into publicly. Like if you see what I talk about online, like I mean, you see my feed. I don't
Sure.
I don't trash other people's things. If people ask my opinion about whether I think one thing is better or more suited for a specific thing, then I will give my opinion based on those criteria, but I'm not going to talk bad about different companies or things like that.
You're not getting on Sig's feed and going, "You guys suck," and everybody gets shot in the
no,
dick by your
no,
320. Yeah, I
no.
do that.
Have you
That's
seen?
my
Have you?
realm.
No, but have you seen me
That's
ever
what I
post
do.
any about that SIG
No,
drama? No, because it's
no.
something that, as somebody in the industry, I think that it's inappropriate for me to comment on. Like, I have reposted stories about it because that's industry news, and so that's relevant, and that's stuff that I think should be talked about and looked at. But I've never commented or done stuff on that specifically for that
So
reason. But
these are yeah, and so these are two good examples as me as a straight consumer
Mhm.
slash influencer, if that's a
Oh
thing,
yeah,
whatever.
let's call
So
you an
the Sons of
influencer because then I can make fun of you.
yeah, have at it. So like Sons of Liberty Gunworks, I own none of their products. I was looking at some of their products. I was looking at like lower parts kits. You know, they're a local, not local
Oh,
to me, but
I
they're
lied.
a they
I do own two of their bulk carrier groups that are sitting downstairs in the box. So sorry, I just wanted to correct the
okay.
record because
Clarification,
I
but
said,
so
yeah,
they're a small company out of San Antonio, Texas. I spent about 5 years in San Antonio, so there's like a soft spot there, and it's
yeah,
like, okay, this is a
no, they're a
local
Texas
gun maker.
company.
This is like 10 dudes in a warehouse, or whatever it is, and so it's
Yeah,
like, man, it'd be cool to support obviously an American company, a small
obviously,
company, a all of this, and it's like all of their stuff on paper sounds great. You watch the YouTube stuff, and like they can
yeah,
explain it. There's a reason we did X, Y, or Z. It's fantastic. All right, man, you guys like, okay. And then it's like, okay, then they get this government contract for like 26 rifles. It's nothing, it's not earth shattering. Maybe for them it's earth shattering, but in the bigger scope of things, this is not SIG in the M8, or whatever, XM8, whatever the fuck that stupid piece of shit is. Anyway, but it's like then they go on this like I'm gonna bash everybody tour who doesn't like my rifle, and it's like
well,
now I
is
have
because
a
people
sad
started
taste in my
asking
mouth.
is well, is because people were asking questions about.
Well, that's even worse. That's once
Well,
you
that's
wade
that's what
through,
started it. Was people
right?
started asking
But that
questions about, well, what was the actual contract rifle versus what's the rifle that you're actually
sure,
selling
and you know
the
what?
contract?
You can clarify that
Well,
for consumers and say, hey, the consumer rifle is this.
they
The spec rifle for
the
these guys is
marketing
this.
was
The
not
marketing
so
was shut
good.
up. Our product is the best. That was the marketing. That's what I
Well,
saw is and just trying to wade
okay,
into
there
this,
you
and
go.
it's like, well,
Yeah,
hold on a second. And so
as a
now I have a
consumer,
negative taste in them.
this is what you were seeing. This is the yeah. This is good because
This is how
versus
I'm
what I was seeing
right.
because I
This
have my perspective and what I saw at SHOT Show and the way they were presenting it at SHOT Show,
yeah,
and so I
you're
have
in the
my own
know
perspective.
though. Sure.
Well, even though I'm in the know, okay, I they still present at SHOT Show. They were presenting the gun, in my opinion. I guess I'll clarify here. In my opinion, the way that it was presented was the gun that they were selling as the Mark One was the
Right.
contract rifle, and they did
Sure.
not specify that it was not the contract rifle because it had different parts. And
Right.
it is not
They
uncommon for companies to sell a similar clone rifle with not the exact parts, but got it. No, no, got to be clear with the consumer. Okay, consumer deserves to know the truth. And if you say something is a contract gun, that means it is exactly the same. It is contract spec. That is what that means in the industry. If you say something is a contract gun, that means it is exactly the same as the contract specifies.
sure. So what they did is a bait and switch with the contract rifle. That's it. That is like textbook bait and switch on a contract rifle, and then called everyone basically pieces of shit who called them out on it. People who said, no, this is not the same barrel, this is not the same piece, it's whatever. They all called them liars, thieves, and called them everything but a white man, basically. And then Sig on the flip side of this, with their 320 debacle, which is still ongoing, mind you, they still have not come out and like really clarified anything. They just kind of have doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on it. I own a P365X. So a completely separate, it's not the same. I want to clarify that. I've tried to point that out numerous times. Like
Contrary
a
to popular
P365X, right.
folklore
The
and
P365 and the
Reddit
P320
threads.
are right. The 325, or excuse me, the 320 and the 365 are only similar in that they're SIG products and
They have
pistols and
different
9
fire
millimeter.
control groups.
Completely different. And I've pointed it out. I've taken a picture of it. I pointed out the differences to people, showed them all that. But SIG has handled it so poorly that I will not carry my 365X anymore. It's unloaded in a box 3 feet from me. I won't carry it.
I think between those two, like that gives us perfect examples of like beyond the petty, like you said, Focus Trip does a good job of going into some of the smaller spats that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, two examples of ways not to handle yourself as a manufacturer in the industry is Sons of Liberty, who were on a great trajectory. Like they had been building really good. Like they had good upward trajectory. They had been building solid business stuff and building it pure. I mean, just from the outside, like they've been building their brand. They had been investing in the brand, building a story behind it. They've been doing everything you would think that you would want over the years, right? Over the past 3 years of building a brand that could have some staying power, right? And then they decided to be Icarus and
there you
fly
go. Okay,
fly a little too close to the sun, and they got burned.
Yeah, and they're doubling down on it.
Well, it just like Icarus, he got prideful. Okay, and he thought he could do it, and that's what caused Icarus to fall. I mean, really, that is the moral of the story with Icarus. And so
it is.
I think that's the perfect, honestly, like, I mean, because Icarus was doing great, right? I mean,
sure.
he was doing like life was good, and he was living life. Everything was going great, and then he decided that being great on Earth and having a great life and doing those things and being special wasn't quite enough. Had to do what he was told not to do.
It's do the thing you should never do.
Yep.
So we're getting to the end of this.
Sorry.
Trevor,
yeah.
So no, you're fine, man. Let's see. If you had to recommend, you don't have to answer this question. I don't know if it kind of conflicts of interest, but basically 3 suppressor brands that you think are top tier, that if someone is coming into, maybe they've owned one cheap suppressor before, but like 3 suppressors for the average guy who shoots 1,000 rounds a month, 3 brands that you think are like standard. These are the brands that check out, and maybe a couple of brands that are on their way up that you'd like to highlight.
Okay, so I'm going to do this a little differently.
Answer it however you need to, man.
Hey, so one of the things that is something I always caution people about new brands is that brand going to be around in 3 years when you need warranty service? Okay. So that's something that I always, that is like one of my questions I always ask people. I can tell people two brands that I am currently uh, testing and enjoying right now, just personally. Not, I have no financial interest in them. These are things that I bought. So it is, damn, I remember the name of the suppressor, but Stealth Additive Works. There we go. And uh, bought their Tisha suppressors. I've got it in 9mm and I've got it in 5.56. So I've actually got a new build that I'm working on right now.
We always do, don't we?
Well, come on now. Do you have any idea how many projects I have going on currently? I'll have
I
to
have one
see if I can
personally.
start a list. You have one?
Just right now, and it revolves around this little guy, the trigger kicker.
Oh, yeah. I I think I'll have to get back to you. I'll post. I'll actually try to see if I can write down a list because I don't know how many projects I have currently. But that one has to do with setting up an 11.5 inch the KK barrel that they make with
Mm-hmm.
the. So I'm putting, because I've been a 12.5 guy, but I'm setting that up uh, as a new upper and running it with the Tisha can. And then replicator suppressors are it's a printed Inconel, and they have titanium. They're they're a little on the higher end of things, but they're not crazy. They're under $1,000 for either
That's okay.
ones. So they're like, all these ones are actually under $1,000 retail. So we're not going on the crazy extreme side of things. Um,
Sure.
so, but uh, the one thing, so besides that, I would like, I'll throw out one brand that I know that I don't have personal experience with, but I know a lot of people love, that that makes stuff in that, I want to say, the $500 to $700 range, is Otter Creek Labs. Has an awesome reputation.
Very good reputation. I was gonna
And
get one of
so
theirs when I went for mine, but they were sold out everywhere.
that's part of the problem is that the demand is massive, and trying to keep up with the demand there. I can't tell you how many suppressor companies are like, a lot of major ones are back ordered 6-8 months on stuff. So, but if you but I would look for companies that have been around at least 3 years. That would
Right.
be my one thing, is that uh, for your general person. And remember, the other biggest thing is that sound, it should be on your priority list. Sound reducement should be towards the bottom of things that you're looking for. It should be maybe fifth on the list or so, because you're only talking a couple decibels difference, and your human ear can't really detect a couple decibels. And we literally could do an entire hour where we can go over the different types of things to look for and what silencers do, and the way that the different priorities that you can put there for what silencers can do, and the way that I would suggest looking at a priority list when you're looking at reviews and stuff like that. Like, I'd be happy to, if there's interest, like, I could do
Yeah,
that.
we can
We could
always do.
talk body armor. That's another big one that I see so much misinformation on, that I would love to correct. Is, I know a lot of people are buying body armor, and it's a great thing. I love it, but there's a lot of companies out there that are unfortunately they are advertising it in a dishonest way, and people are buying stuff that is not actually tested correctly and is not actually will not take the rounds that they think it will take. It's not going to protect them the way that they think it will, and that is a massive, massive problem I have, having worked in the body armor industry for a while and designed body armor, and that's yeah. Sorry, I can.
No, you're
There's
good, man. So
the number of
we'll set something
tangents.
up in the future. But as
Hey,
far as like, I got to get out of here.
yeah.
That's about
So
all the time I had for today. Hey, I
yeah,
appreciate you hanging out, Trevor. Everybody go follow him
anytime, man.
at US General. Yeah, US General 25 on the Twitters. Follow him there. I'll
Yeah,
put links in the description for
if
everybody. And
if
if
y'all
you have any
have
links or
like
anything,
no, just
good.
US Trail 25. If y'all have questions on, like, I'm not so great necessarily on like individual suppressors necessary. If I, a lot of times I may not have experience with them, which means I can't. I'm not going to talk about stuff I don't have personal experience with. But if you have general questions on stuff, hit me up. Like, if you want to learn, I am happy to share whatever knowledge I have. I'm always happy to share that.
Well, awesome, man. This